A CEO publicly slapped a single dad in a cafe until her bodyguard saw the scar that changed everything. Nobody really pays attention to the people around them in a busy cafe. Everyone is in their own world, checking their phone, sipping their coffee, rushing to get somewhere. That is exactly what was happening on a cold October morning caught, a quiet downtown cafe. Nothing about that day looked unusual, until it did. There was a man sitting in the corner. He looked tired, the kind of tired that does not go away after one night of sleep. His name was Daniel. He was 38 years old, and he was a single father. His little girl, Sophia, was 7. She sat beside him in her school uniform, her small legs dangling off the chair, her head bent over a worn sketchbook. She loved to draw. She drew everywhere, on napkins, on the back of receipts, on her hands when she ran out of paper. Daniel had taken the morning off. He worked 2 jobs, a daytime job at a logistics company and a night cleaning shift that ended at 4 in the morning. Most days, he ran on 3 hours of sleep and whatever coffee he could afford. He did not complain about this to anyone. He just got on with it, the way people do when they have someone depending on them and no time to feel sorry for themselves. They had stopped at the cafe because Sophia had asked him to. She had seen the ceiling once before from outside the window, high and detailed, with old plasterwork flowers and swirling patterns, and she wanted to draw it. So Daniel had ordered a black coffee, sat down, and watched his daughter tip her head back and start sketching, with a look of absolute concentration on her face. That moment, at least, was peaceful. Then the door opened. The woman who walked in did not go unnoticed. She never did. Her name was Natasha. She was the kind of person who owned the room without trying. Or maybe she was trying, but after enough years of it had become automatic. She was the CEO of a large company, the kind of name that appeared in business magazines and finance news. She wore a long dark coat. She had 2 people with her, a younger assistant and a large, quiet man who stayed close behind her. His name was Victor. He had worked for her for 12 years. He had seen a lot. Natasha was not having a good morning. She had come from a board meeting the night before that had gone badly. She had not slept. She had a meeting in 20 minutes that she was not looking forward to. Her jaw was tight. Her eyes were flat. She moved through the cafe the way a storm moves. You could feel it before it arrived. What happened next took about 4 seconds. Sophia reached down for a pencil that had rolled off the table. She bumped her father's arm doing it. Daniel's coffee tipped, not a full cup, most of it was gone already, and the little that remained splashed sideways across the aisle, just as Natasha was walking past. The edge of her coat caught it. She stopped. The cafe went quiet in that way it does when something is about to go wrong. Not silent exactly, just quieter. Daniel was already on his feet. He was apologizing immediately, genuinely, calmly, reaching for napkins from the dispenser on the table. He said sorry twice. He was not being dramatic about it. It was an accident, and he knew it, and he said so. Sophia looked up from her sketchbook with wide eyes and said sorry too, in her small voice. Natasha looked at him. Then she said something sharp. He answered quietly. She said something worse, the kind of thing that people say when they are tired and wound tight and they have forgotten, just for a moment, that the person in front of them is a real person. And then she slapped him. Open palm. Not hard enough to leave a mark, but hard enough to be heard. Hard enough that 3 people at nearby tables looked up. Hard enough that Sophia went completely still, her pencil hovering above the page, her eyes moving from her father's face to the woman's face and back again. Daniel did not raise his hand. He did not raise his voice. He did not say a word. He just looked at her, steady, quiet, and entirely still. That stillness, somehow, was more unsettling than anything else in the room. Natasha's assistant stepped forward and guided her toward the private dining room at the back. People watched them go. Someone near the window had their phone out. A few others looked at Daniel with the uncomfortable sympathy strangers give when they witness something and feel helpless about it. Victor did not follow Natasha immediately. He stayed near the door for a moment, just a moment, and watched Daniel bend down to pick up Sophia's sketchbook, which had fallen to the floor during the commotion. As Daniel straightened up, his sleeve pulled back slightly at the wrist. Victor saw the scar. It ran from just below the left wrist to the middle of the forearm, irregular. Old. The texture of it was specific in a way that most people would not recognize. but Victor recognized it. He knew exactly what kind of burn left a mark like that, and he knew exactly where he had seen one before. He stood very still for a few seconds. Then he took out his phone and made a call. 12 years ago, Victor had been a soldier. He was part of a unit that hit an explosive device on a road in a war zone. 6 men died, 11 were injured. Victor was one of the injured, badly enough that, without help arriving fast, he would not have survived. The medic who reached him first was not someone from his unit. He was attached to a different team, passing through. He had no reason to stop, but he stopped. He pulled Victor out of the wreckage by himself. He tore off his own jacket and used it to pack Victor's wound with his bare hands, pressing down and staying down for nearly 40 minutes until the helicopter came. He talked to Victor the whole time, not to comfort him exactly, but to keep him awake. He said ordinary things. He talked about the weather back home. He said his daughter liked to draw. That medic's name was Daniel. Victor had spent years trying to find him after coming home. The unit had scattered. Records were incomplete. The man had left the military quietly a few years later. There was no trail. Victor had eventually stopped looking, but he had never stopped remembering. Now he stood in a cafe in October with that name confirmed on his phone screen. Same man, same age, same service record, same daughter. And he put the phone back in his pocket and went to find Natasha. She was in the private dining room, composed again on the outside, going through her meeting notes. She was good at snapping back into professional mode. She had been doing it for years. Victor interrupted her. He almost never did that. She looked up. He said, very simply, "I know who that man is." Then he told her. He did not soften it. Victor was not built for soft. He told her what Daniel had done 12 years ago, in a place very far from this cafe. He told her that the man she had slapped in front of his daughter, in front of a room full of people, was the reason Victor was standing in front of her right now. He said this without raising his voice, which somehow made it worse. Natasha did not respond for a long moment. She canceled the meeting. She asked the assistant to leave the room. What happened in the next few minutes, only Victor saw. He never spoke about the details of it afterward, but he would say, much later, that he had worked for her for 12 years, had seen her in boardrooms and in courtrooms and in hospital waiting rooms when things went wrong, and he had never seen her face do what it did in that room. She was not managing herself. She was not calculating the right response. She was just sitting with something and feeling it. Then she asked if Daniel was still in the cafe. Victor checked. He was. Sophia had finished her drawing, and they were putting their coats on to leave. Natasha stood up before he finished the sentence. She walked back out into the main cafe. Several people noticed her immediately. Some recognized her. Some just felt the shift in the room. Daniel was helping Sophia into her jacket, adjusting the collar the way parents do without thinking. Natasha stopped in front of him. He looked up. His expression gave nothing away. Not hostility, not warmth. The expression of someone who has long since learned not to expect much from strangers. She told him she was sorry. Not the kind of sorry that is really just damage control. Not the kind with qualifications attached. She said she had behaved badly. She said it clearly, in a room where people could hear, without dropping her voice to make it more private, or more comfortable for herself. You could see that saying it cost her something. She did not try to hide that. Daniel looked at her for a moment. Then he said, "Thank you for saying that." And he meant it. You could tell he meant it. The same way you can tell when someone is just filling silence, and when they are actually speaking. He did not ask why she had come back. He did not bring up what Victor had told her. He did not know any of that had happened. As far as he was concerned, she had come back on her own, and that was what mattered. Sophia, who had been watching all of this with the complete, unblinking attention that children bring to moments they sense are important, reached into her sketchbook and tore out a page. She held it up to Natasha. It was the cafe ceiling, drawn in careful, wobbly 7-year-old lines, every swirl and flower accounted for. At the bottom, in large block letters, she had written, "For the lady with the nice coat." Natasha took the drawing with both hands. Something shifted in her face. Not dramatically, not in a way that would make a good clip for anyone watching. Just a small, quiet shift. The kind that happens when something gets through a wall that has been up for a very long time. She said thank you to Sophia. Sophia nodded seriously, like someone who had just completed an important transaction. The video, of course, went everywhere that afternoon. Multiple angles, the spill, the confrontation, the slap, and, from someone sitting near the entrance, the apology. People online had their opinions ready within the hour, as they always do. Natasha became a trending topic. Most of the conversation was about the slap. A small part was about the apology. Almost none of it was about Daniel, whose face was blurred in most of the clips. He did not give any interviews. He did not post anything. He picked Sophia up from school that afternoon, made dinner, and went to his night shift at 11. Natasha did not release a statement. Her team had drafted one, careful, measured, the kind that is written to close a news cycle. She told them not to send it. She let the footage stand. 3 weeks later, a housing program for veteran single parents received a significant anonymous donation. No announcement, no press coverage. The organization's director noticed the donor had specifically requested no acknowledgement of any kind. Victor found out about it months later. He said nothing to Natasha about it. He already knew. And in Natasha's private office, a room that had no personal items on any wall, no photographs, no artwork, nothing. A small drawing appeared in a simple oak frame. A cafe ceiling, drawn in a child's hand, wobbly lines, careful flowers. For the lady with the nice coat, it was the only thing on any wall in any office she had ever used. There is something this story keeps coming back to, and it is this. Daniel never found out that the apology was connected to what he had done 12 years ago. He never knew about Victor. He never knew about the donation. He just thought a powerful woman had a bad morning, made a bad choice, and then came back and did the right thing, and he respected that. Simply, and without a big speech about it, he respected it. The thing about people like Daniel is that they do not carry what they have done like a badge. They just do it and keep moving. He had saved a man's life with his bare hands and never mentioned it again. He raised his daughter on almost nothing and made it look ordinary. He absorbed a public humiliation in front of a room full of people and left with his dignity completely intact. Not because he was trying to be impressive, just because that was who he was. And Sophia, who drew ceilings and handed out pages from her sketchbook to strangers, probably already knew that about her father. Children usually do. They are watching, always, and they see what the adults around them actually are. Not what they say they are, not what they perform, but what they actually are when things go sideways, and the choices are small and fast, and no one is giving points. She kept drawing after that day. She always did. Some stories end with a big moment. A speech, a resolution, something that ties everything up clearly. This one does not. It ends with a man going to work, a child going to school, a woman sitting in a quiet office, and a small drawing on a wall. And somehow, that feels exactly right.